I have the adapter, so I can put the adapter on my.
I'm not even, I think it might, is it
That
only that close? No, I think it's 3. I have to look.
All righty.
That's huge.
Welcome, everyone.
Right.
And over to you, Chair.
Very nice.
Well, good morning, everyone. Here we are on a bustling Tuesday, July 18th, 2023 for the Washington County Board of Commissioners work session. This is Chair Catherine Harrington. I'm joined with Vice Chair Roy Rogers, Commissioners Nafisa Fai, Pam Treese, and Jerry Willey. We have a great day today. Welcome, everyone. And we're starting off with board and leadership communication and formal agenda item discussion. Who on the board would like to go first?
It's Nafisa's turn to go first.
All righty, Jerry. I knew that was coming.
I was going to say, if it's not one of you, I'd happily go.
Oh, sure. You want to go? You
Well,
usually go. Yeah.
And I just
Set it up.
I misplaced
Okay.
my
Oh,
notes, so I got to hurry up and find them.
I'll use Jerry. You wanted me to wait or?
No,
Go for
please
it.
go.
Thank you, Jerry, for that assignment. Good morning, everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Good morning, everyone. Last week, I had the opportunity to visit for the first time. Sorry to say it's the first time, but for the first time, the Bonnie Hates Animal Shelter. Brenda and I had a lot of constituents that reach out to us about some concerns and some questions that they've had, and I sort of flagged it to visit that shelter and to see, and I really appreciated Randy and his team. Tanya, your leadership is really showing on that shelter, and they're doing great work. I want to express my gratitude to the team over there, and they didn't really like clean up or prepared for a commissioner coming. It was really just to see the shelter as it is and see the animals. And I'm Somalia. People from Somalia, we have fear of dogs. I think that's well known. But there were so many cute dogs in that shelter, and my kids wanted to take some of the cat, and I was tempted. So I appreciate everything that we're doing, and just regrounded my gratitude and to the hope for this future. And we get so concerned about our own reality that we forget there are people who are actually caring about animals that are stranded out in the streets and sheltering, feeding them. And there were some sick animals in their quarantine, and I saw the schedule of when their feeding medicine doc is, or when they're scheduled. So good work, and congratulations, Randy, and your team. I participated with the rest of the commissioners as well with the Oregon Department of Forestry, their F&P presentation. That was quite illuminating presentation and topics. And I think I sort of made a commitment to myself that to not hold up the board, but also pay attention and participate in some of the conversations, and been cruising their websites. And I appreciated the cruising their website. The topics could be really hard information, like very dry, but they did a really good job of just sort of making it digestible, at least for me, on Friday. So
Did for me too.
Oh, Chair Henry, you had a lot of questions. I think you're very knee deep in this topic. To me, at least to me, that's how I interpret it. You're very well knowledgeable. And then I had nothing to report, but last week I also attended the AOC's HHS steering committee. It was a very quick meeting, the quickest meeting. It's just I think less than an hour or so. I also had a meeting with Gina Nichols, with AOC Executive Director. It was a very good conversation. It was very oriented about the budget and the dues, and also the conference that is Klamath. Is it Klamath? Coming up? Let her know that I won't be attending that conference myself. and also didn't speak for anybody who was attending, but it was a really good meeting. I really appreciated Gina coming to meet with us. And then yesterday was WCCC. Very informational. Jessica and Stephen, your team, I really appreciated the updates on the constructions piece of ODOT came and presented all the constructions that are happening in Washington County. And I don't like, we get a lot of questions about 217 or this construction and that construction is happening. So, or is ending the timeline. So that was really good information. And no action items from WCCC, just a lot of informational. And then this week is also RTAC. Chair Harrington, I understand you have a conflict as well. If it's all right with you, I'd like to have Jessica attend for us, and I've had other electeds send their transportation staff on
we
that
can
board.
do that?
We could do that.
Okay, that'd be useful. Thank
Yeah.
you, Jessica.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Jessica. Yeah, I think I did give you a heads up that I was gonna bring and ask the chair, so, okay.
No, it's
I'm not
great.
putting, okay,
It's a great solution.
yeah.
I was waiting till the agendas came out for
Yeah,
that at
yeah.
SHS, so.
Perfect.
That's
Yeah, I think we've had other commissioners and send their transportation staff to present. And I think Jessica is very well knee deep on this Nexus project conversations, and she's been involved in tri-county conversations as well as where, Multnomah County is heading, Portland's heading, and Clackamas is heading. And then more importantly, what do we see from an investment yielding investment for Washington County? So I feel very confident representing the board on that conversation. So thank you. And then on Saturday, I attended, I'll be quick, my time ended. I'm so sorry, I wasn't paying attention. But lastly, I attended the town hall for Senator Merkley.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a very well attended, it happened at Century High School. There were over 100, there was an article that was published, there was over 100 people that came and really asked really good questions. I think we really put a good face about Washington County and really demonstrated. And there were a few people elected from Hillsborough side that came as well. And yeah, the senator was really grateful to be in Washington County, but he did mention he had to scoot out for Columbia County at the same time, quickly right after the. But there were people, residents that came for the first time. They're meeting a senator, a Congress member of Congress for the first time. And they couldn't believe it. So we need to get our senators out more in Washington County. But with that, I turn it back.
Well, thank you for attending that, by the way. Summertime can be a little hard to make it to things, so I really appreciate your going. Who's next?
No, I'm still working if you go.
I will go. Or Roy, why don't you go?
Jerry's the same.
You've been gone a long time. We miss you.
He's the boss of us, by
Yeah,
the way.
right.
What's going on,
We
Chair
gave you
Harrington?
homework assignments last Tuesday.
Power of
Yes.
suggestion.
What's
I'm not
going on,
sure what
Sharon?
they are, but
Angie should have information for you at our roundtable on Thursday. I distributed
Is that the information regarding, I saw,
the strategic plan.
I saw the budget stickers and I found that interesting.
Oh, yes, that was our
And then all of
budget,
it, and then all of the
post-budget
information.
review.
I looked at some of that, that's like deja vu walking through history.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't much of a homework.
No, there's a whole handout.
Oh, all right, well, I'll look again.
Yeah,
That's what I
for
saw.
the August 3rd roundtable.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Anyway, last week, had the pleasure of going to what I find interesting in my career, and this leads at this point of a management session for well, Clean Water Services, one of the representatives. It's the NACWA, which is a national group of clean water execs. And I like to deal with those folks because they are dealing with issues that are more forward thinking and more management thinking. And it's interesting. Probably, I don't know, Diane, maybe a couple hundred people somewhere in that attendance. Diane, as I think you all saw, she's the treasurer. She gave a very interesting treasurer's report. I thought that you did a great job. And then she was elected vice president, and she'll be president the year after. It was in Louisville, Kentucky, 90-some degrees outside, 10 degrees inside. I got there at 2 a.m. I got there in the morning. And when I left, I didn't get back to Portland until 2 a.m. I mean, the flights were horrible. Caught a cold. I was sick all weekend, but so I keeping my distance. The thing I would say, takeaways, just because you go to these things and you say takeaways. One, they're grappling not only with what you all have heard about the fine particles of plastic, PFAS or however they title it, but that's just one of many things that DEQ, which is in our state, our EPA on the national level is going to categorize as issues. And so they're saying, how are we going to measure all this stuff and how are we going to address it? And everybody's different across the country. So be prepared for a lot of changes in that area. They also talked a lot about AI, which I found to be interesting. They really don't have a lot of solutions. I don't know that I annoyed people, but I tended to ask questions in front of the 200 people. And when I didn't get any answers, got lots of people talking to me afterwards saying, great questions. I wish they would answer you. But there has to be not only accountability of actions, but there has to be some productivity goals in all this. And or else it's just a lot of money spent. And everybody intuitively knows that, but didn't quite know how to answer it. So I think we definitely are out front. We're not behind. We're leading. And people are trying to figure out how to catch us, not only where we're at, but where they need to be. Diane spoke on a couple of panels, and I'm going to pick on you here for just a minute. I'm turning my back to you, so I don't have to look at what your expressions are. After you've been in any profession for a long, long time, and I'll look at Jerry because he was the same way in the CPA profession. You know who masters the details and who just tells stories that they've been told by others, or maybe the stories they have in their own company. She masters the concepts. And on the panels, people would tell the stories of their particular entity, or maybe stories that they'd heard, but were unable to globally look at what the issues are and put them together and talk in frames of not only what is, but what will be, how one needs to approach it. Truly a giant on the stage, no question. I mean, it was somewhat embarrassing at times, and again, that's why I'm not looking at her. And that the other participants weren't rising to that. They had the opportunity, but they were not. And so it's a shame. There are big issues that are facing utilities, and I think counties as well, and as well as cities. Many of these jurisdictions were connected with cities or counties. A lot of them are fairly independent because of the way they're designed. But very interesting to see what's happening in the thought leaders, not just I'm going to be people who do the same thing day after day, year after year, because my tasks are to make the thing run and get a budget that makes it run. But how do I run it better, more efficiently? Jack also attended. He asked a very interesting question that didn't get answered as well, which is how do we, progress and move to the future if you're so busy doing it? Saying, I'm so busy working in it, I can't work on it. And, I think that's a good advice for all of us. So it was an interesting conference. I only learned where we're at. I think we have a bit to go, and I pushed and prodded this lady over here about let's be even greater than we are. But it was interesting from that standpoint to see the biggest and the best, and they're many times larger than us. Some of these organizations, but they're taking information from us and trying to figure out. And I was impressed and had a lot of interesting comments. So that was my week. I did get all your comments in regard to the budget comments that you made on the process. As you might guess, would have a few different ones, but I would be happy to share those as well. And then I did see the homework assignment about read where we are in our strategic plan, how we got there, and all the rest of it. But again,
Consider a lot of questions.
yeah,
Come prepared.
yeah, there we go. You got it. Thank you.
I was keeping an eye on Commissioner Rogers. I was looking for Diane for those facial expressions.
Yeah.
It was very, very well appreciated, your comments. And
Good job.
And thank
Very
you
glad.
for being there.
Oh, that was my pleasure.
Yeah.
Other than the cold.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, my meeting was not quite as exotic as what you just talked about.
What do you
Roy. I went,
Our CFTLC District 3 meeting.
I haven't got there yet.
By the way, Jared, I really like that shirt. I do.
Okay.
And I'm surprised you're not assigning to.
Yeah.
Now, she's already told me no. I only
Oh,
did
okay.
Take a lot, I got a
Um,
lot of updates on my computer.
Anyway, my 5 minutes is gonna start. Went to the Bank City Council last week. That was for my usual quarterly reporting, but I was a little late on that one because we couldn't get our calendars to match up. But anyway, it was good to talk to them. A lot of conversation about what LUT and their intersection remodeling. I stayed for that presentation. And we'll have further conversation with Stephen and the individual. I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember what his name was really. Yeah. In that presentation, they'll talk about that. They're concerned, of course, about losing parking spots on Main Street and what kind of that end of town is going to look like when we get done with it. So the work continues on that. I met with Olga to talk about Acre. So that was an interesting conversation as well, and certainly we'll follow up with that. The fair board, the fair is starting this week. And so we go for 10 days. We had a fair board meeting last week. The good news, one of the good things about it is that 4-H was pretty much decimated through the pandemic and it has revitalized itself now. We've got great turnout with 4-H and FFA kids. We've got lots of animals that are going to be out there, depending on how hot it is. Rabbits don't like heat. And so, yeah, take some time and go out, go for a tour. The Fair Board, as usual, is providing breakfast for all the 4-H and FFA kids a week from Thursday. So the last 4 days of the fair, we always provide breakfast for them at 7 o'clock in the morning. And it's an energetic, fun group. And then they all also offer to take us on kind of a guided tour of all of the animals. So that'll be fun. I'll be looking forward to that next week. Northwest Act was interesting as we had our roundtable here in the morning last Thursday, so I couldn't go to Copac, but I went to Scappoose for the Northwest Act. And we talked a lot about a lot of things, but the interesting thing was the Sunset Transit Empire District, which is a kind of like what Forest Grove has, Grove Link. They have that. It's in Astoria, and I think it goes as far up as Cannon Beach. They have had some financial issues, and they're talking about they may have to stop this service by the end of July. Former Senator Betsy Johnson was at the table and not happy. And so she interrogated the two board members that were present, and it was a very uncomfortable time, but she was asking a lot of good questions, just in Betsy's fashion, just a little bit harsh maybe. But so we'll find out more. They are having a forensic audit by ODOT, I believe. And so we will find out more about that probably at the next ACT meeting. Met with two students that are in the Virginia Garcia RISE program. Reach, Inspire, Support, Engage is what RISE stands for. And both of these individuals wanted to know how they could get more engaged. And so I gave them some information on organizations they could go and talk to. One woman lives in Cornelius, and so wanted to know how she could pay attention more to Cornelius's city council meetings. I've also agreed to provide introductions with Maria, Olga, and Adelante.
You might also mention or introduce her to the um, young ladies who are on the Cornelia City Council, Doris.
Mhm.
uh,
Well, what I suggested is that she actually go to a
Yeah.
city council
Oh, that'd be
meeting,
great.
introduce herself, tell her what
Yes.
she wants to do. And I said, just be prepared.
Yeah.
Because when you say
She'll
you want to
follow up.
volunteer for something, you're gonna get
Yep.
opportunities. So, but yeah, she said she would do that. And I've already sent the email out to the other three individuals and see if they follow up and meet with her. That was very good to talk to these two individuals about volunteer opportunities. As Nafisa said, Council Forest Trust Lands meeting last week was very good, and I think they were happy to be here. It was a good meeting. I don't know that they heard anything new, but we will continue to follow up with that as they move, the Board of Forestry moves closer to making a decision. And then yesterday I met with the Hope Community Network, the two individuals there. They are trying to acquire a house in Forest Grove and provide it for more permanent housing for the homeless. And working with Jess and our SHS team on doing that. And then, of course, next week, I leave for NACO on Thursday, but next week we have a tour with Clean Water Services. Looking forward to that as well. So that's all I got. It's my 5 minutes up. Kevin, did I stay in there?
We're not doing too badly.
No. Thank you. I have a fairly long report this morning. I'll try to move quickly through it. This past week, I had coffee with a gentleman whose name is Mitch Chilcott. He's a constituent that's interested in getting more involved in the county. He's currently the supervisor of spiritual care at Providence in Northeast Portland, working primarily in the cancer center. He's interested in possibly working in the homeless realm and doing some things there. So I have a meeting scheduled with Jess Larson tomorrow to talk about opportunities there. I attended my last Central Cultural board meeting. I attended the board meeting and provided the information as to why I'll be leaving the board and the fact that it was certainly endorsed by Maria and the changes there. So that it was a relatively short board meeting for me. The Policy Advisory Board meeting was last week. We were in person in this building. It's the first time in a long time for that group. We had dinner, and then our discussion included the proposed changes to the housing rehabilitation policies, and also dissolving the loan review board. And we will be getting an in-depth presentation to the board regarding those issues, but it's related to the changes in how this particular authorization of money happened. So you'll be hearing more about that. I did get an update from Sherry Gray on ERMDAC. I think what's really important to say, first of all, is it's my opinion that ERMDAC is really working well. We have good leadership. Melissa Laird is the chair and Dick Steinberg is the vice chair, and they work well with the committee, and they're working really well with Sherry and others in LUT to modify the lists for ERMDAC. And they, it's been an interesting procedure, but they do have them down to, let's see, I think that there's 6. And I don't vote on these because I vote on them as obviously a board member. There are 6, and there are several in District 1 and a couple in District 2. So that represents that area. But I do want to express my appreciation to Sherry for the work that she's done, but also, like I said earlier, the work that the committee leadership has been putting in. I attended the CFTLC meeting along with you guys, and I thought it was a great meeting. It was very interesting. There's a lot that I don't know. So it was good information for me to be exposed to. In RDPO, first of all, I've got a meeting this week with RDPO regional group on the wildland fire protection project presentation. But there's also a letter that I believe is in your packet. Is that true, Megan? Is it in their packet, the letter from RDP? Okay, I can make it available to you. That it basically, I'm endorsing the grant application for Regional Community Resilience Project. And the purpose of this grant is really to build the community through the directed inclusion of CBOs in our BIPOC community to make sure that we have a really solid base if and when there is going to be a disaster. So
It's for federal grant for regional community.
it is,
Question marks.
it is, I need to check to make sure I don't want to say incorrect.
You'll let us know.
Yes,
in
I
the
will.
email?
I'm sorry, I don't. No, it goes to U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So there you go. I needed to look
But
at where
for
I
a
addressed the
regional
letter.
scale versus.
Yes, it's a regional scale,
Thank you.
not
Appreciate
just
it.
Washington County. This is support of RDPO as our
Yep.
regional body. And I work, John Wheeler was the one who continues to give me really good advice in relationship to RDPO. And he is, as I've said this before, he's clearly a leader in that group. So I feel fortunate to be able to work with him. The total funding available is like $12 million, and they're looking to give 5 to 10 grants. So that kind of gives you an idea of what kind of money we're talking
Really
about.
competitive.
So this week, I've got the tour of Rock Creek Water Resource Recovery Center coming. As I mentioned, the RDPO Regional Wildland Fire Protection Project presentation, the Homeless Plan Advisory Committee, and I'm attending the Driving Diversity Class Celebration with Pride. And I believe that Matt Craigie and the chair are also going to be attending that. I have a constituent in District 2. His name is Thao Tu, and he is representing the Vietnamese community and is interested in a proclamation in relationship to their heritage and also a potential flag. I've asked him if he will present to the entire board during testimony at the second half, and he's going to do that on the 25th.
We actually have a policy with regard to flag.
Okay, well, I think it's a
Displays.
two plate piece, but I will make sure that he gets that policy on the flag. But the Vietnamese recognition of the Vietnamese community is the other piece to that. So that's my report.
Great. That leaves me. Okay. Last week we had a productive Metro SHS Tri-County Planning Body Committee meeting. There was the presentation of the SHS Oversight Committee First Annual Report. That's coming to us next Tuesday. It's really good. I just caught the very tail end last week of the Forest Grove City Hall ribbon cutting. They did a beautiful job replacing one building entirely and connecting up with the older building, which it was cost prohibitive for them to reconstruct that whole building. But the whole connection, the new carpeting, paint, furnishing, setup, it's totally seamless, which building, it seemed seamless to me, which building you're in. So it's really been designed to serve the community really well and also provide for a modern workplace for our their workforce moving forward. Really excellent job, Forest Grove. As you've mentioned, we had that CFTLC District 3 meeting. Dang, we have more work to do. I was kind of hoping it would wind down, but that's one of those things that's on the plate from September onwards. So I better enjoy July and August while they're here. Yesterday had for the first time in years, a face-to-face meeting, lunch meeting with my fellow Tri-County chairs.
So cool.
Yes, We're so used to talking to one another on Zoom or on the phone. It was just wonderful. We kept it to an hour, so it was like speed talking.
Where'd you meet?
We meet at a restaurant that's equidistant.
Yes.
We talked about the state legislature and housing as critical needs, touched upon the state of affairs or not with different county commissions of the three of us on AOC. Of the three county commissions, we're the most active. Voting with one's feet. And I've been spending time planning our next couple of roundtables. We had a meeting with the facilitator who you've all talked to as well. So I think we've got good discussions going on coming up with our strategic plan review. Busy times, great times, but busy. Okay, leadership communication.
They are busy times and I'm going to keep my update brief this week. So first, and the fair was mentioned, but I just want to underscore that the Washington County Fair starts in just 3 days. So the team is very busy prepping and getting ready. Running through Friday, July 21st through July 30th. A full schedule, including information on fair hours, animals, entertainment, food, and more is available at bigfair.com. Please swing by the Washington County Information Booth in Wingspan, where we will have information about county services available to all fair goers. As a reminder, admission to the fair is free. My other items actually our amazing GR team will be covering at 2 p.m. in the GR update, so I don't want to steal that excitement in anticipation that your board may have of hearing the outcomes and of this legislative session as well as the state budget process.
Watch out, Erin.
Uh-oh.
Once again, I know there's anticipation. for that
Don't worry,
discussion.
those aren't your questions. There's only one question tag.
She needs a COVID test.
I'm not feeling well.
You've got me engaged.
We're all here to support our GR team. And then just a reminder for your board, tomorrow I'll be attending an Oregon City County Management Association meeting and then traveling to Austin for the NACO conference with Commissioner Willie and Commissioner Fye. On Sunday to the following Sunday, I will be in Minnesota spending needed time with my family on a lake, which I cannot wait for. During this period of time, Erin Calvert will be serving as acting county administrator, and in partnership with Marnie Kyle, I will send an email to your board as a reference point if you have any questions.
Ooh, Austin, you're in for a hot time based on the weather forecast.
103 every day.
Really?
Mhm.
It's a dry heat.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
50% chance of rain.
No, the wet heat.
Wait a minute. What did we sign up?
Good luck. Be careful. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Chair. Good morning. I do want to note that it was 55 degrees and sunny this morning when I left my house. I rode
Like
a
5
tail-
a.m. when I'm
a
still.
tailwind the whole way. So with all those days when you see me come in soaking wet, today's the day you live for. Outstanding. Although John Wheeler just sent us a note, there's going to be 25-mile-an-hour winds out of the east.
Ooh,
Mhm.
It's going to be a fun
a
ride.
headwind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
payback.
Yeah, that's fair. You enjoy the times you have. I want to talk very briefly about two cases where Washington County has been the test case. One is Warren against Washington County. As you may recall, you've talked about this many times. It was a case involving Goal 5 and the question whether or not the county had to adopt clear and objective standards for natural resources outside the urban growth boundary. As you all know, with your support and our fabulous GR team, the legislature amended the statute in House 7. So Rob Bovet is working to wrap up that case with LCDC. They originally tried to schedule a hearing. The petitioner objected, wanted a full time. So they'll have early August. They will have a full hearing where hopefully that standard will be changed. And our great LUT team is working on revising the ordinance will bring that forward later. So that's a nice victory. And it's truly one Washington County with GR and LUT in my office, and of course the board working together to resolve something well. The second one is not so much fun. There are a series of habeas corpus petitions. Habeas corpus means produce the body. It's a very old writ, goes back to ancient, the original English common law, and it's a way to challenge the constitutional rights of the challenge that constitutional rights of a prisoner are being violated. We end up being the defendant because the sheriff holds the individual. So since the writ is directed at the sheriff, we get sued as Washington County, and we defend them. These writs are in federal court, and it's on the question of whether or not the defendants are being held illegally because they have not been provided counsel. So this comes back to the state's issues with not providing defense counsel. We have been defending, although because we just represent the sheriff, we don't really have a position and we can't provide them lawyers. I believe there are three of them have been provided attorneys, so those should be moot. One was still outstanding last I heard. Amy McMahon is handling this. We have tried to get the Attorney General engaged without success, because this really is a state issue, not a county issue. And I may be scheduling an executive session to talk about next steps with the board in the near future if this does not go away.
So in advance of our state ledge session this afternoon, this is one of the questions that I have with regard to money provided through state legislation for increasing the availability of financial resources for public defense and what I need to learn. And so just giving you between your team, you and your team and GR this afternoon, I'll be making an ask to help me learn more about how the state is actually intending, what those funds are intended for. So how the state is holding itself accountable to make the situation better.
And I believe the circuit court is also working on it. There's an order increasing the amounts that is being paid, but it's still on the ground. It's a challenge, and we're sort of in the middle of it for reasons that I don't understand. But they've chosen to sue here in Washington County. But of course, it's in federal court, so it's in Portland. And the last thing is just a brief update on Mr. Beschart. As you all know, the Sellers Road property has been an ongoing issue. He is still in jail. There's a hearing today, and common theme, he has not been provided a lawyer yet. So it's something of a struggle. Hopefully, we are hoping that he gets a lawyer today, which will help resolve some issues. But he has been in jail, I believe, since June, because he has, as you know, pending some assault charges, and which of course are just charges there. So he's been sitting in jail for some time. At some point, the state limit of pretrial jail time will be reached. And we hopefully that he'll have a lawyer by then, and we could work on getting some resolution to these issues.
I have another question.
Yes.
For our benefit. I heard that on Friday, I think it was a federal judge ruled on the constitutionality, maybe,
Yes.
of that. Was it measure? I can't remember what with regard to 114. Yeah, see, I get the two.
110 or
confused.
114?
The
14.
114
Guns.
And then I heard a piece this morning that talked about how that was done, but but a state judge has something still, or a
Yes.
case in Harney County. And okay, so it was federal here, but statewide it's still blocked because of that Harney case.
That's correct.
And do you have any feel for what kind of timeline that may be on?
I believe it's going to trial soon, is what I heard. So we should get a resolution. It's hard to predict what's going to happen, but the judge did enter the temporary restraining order and the preliminary injunction. So the law is still enjoined.
Okay.
Judge Immergut's decision was like 120 pages. So I have not read the whole thing, and it gets into that issue of Bruin against New York Gun Club, where the Supreme Court said that you could only regulate under the Second Amendment if there was a similar regulation in effect at the time the Second Amendment was adopted or the time the 14th Amendment imposed it on the states. And so there's a lot of historians who are working on gun cases right now. So I'm interested. I have not had a chance to read Judge Immergut's decision, but I'm interested to do it because the analysis will be fascinating. And then, of course, I assume it'll go to the Ninth Circuit.
Okey-dokey.
I had one question too. Tom, I don't clearly understand the liability that we have in terms of not providing counsel. People are, but it sounds like if we don't, and they're held, we may have liability, obviously. If we're not providing that counsel, it's not part of our role, it's a state role. What is the exposure? I've never heard that part. I mean, one would be just catch and release and say, come back when you can. And the other would be, we're trying to do the sensible thing, but you may be penalized a lot of money. And this could cost a lot of money.
Yeah. Well, as a defense lawyer, I will tell you, I don't think there's any liability, but I think you're right to worry about risk. The adults in custody are being held pursuant to court orders. We're not responsible. The state court is a state function, and therefore the sheriff just obeys what the court tells him to do. So we're holding them under court order. Also, judges have complete immunity for issuing those orders, so they can't sue the state. Someone could theoretically sue us, the county, but it would be a hard road since the sheriff has zero discretionary functions in this area. They hold only if directed by a court.
In your time, I should find some comfort in the fact that there's defense everywhere. Okay, we have defense. It's just an inconvenience of being sued.
Yes, and although we try to do these things in house, there's certainly a cost to having us do it. It's a very sunk cost because you're paying us anyway. As I say, I get paid whether I work or not. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Okay, Clean Water Services.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Harrington, and good morning to the Board of Clean Water Services. The team is really looking forward to the tour with the board and community members at the Rock Creek Water Resource Recovery. So it's tomorrow from 10 to 11:30, and then lunch will be served. We have some great news from Congresswoman Bonamici's office. We hear that the Western Washington County Sanitary Sewer I&I Rehab Project was included in the House Appropriation Bill in the amount of $959,752, and that Senator Merkley has shortlisted the project on the Senate side. So we anticipate seeing the draft Senate appropriation bill early next month. And the funding is from the Environmental Protection Agency's state and tribal assistance grant, and it provides up to 80% of the funding. The project's a bigger project, and the original request was for $4.96 million, but we're just very grateful to be prioritized and to receive that, potentially receive that grant. It's with sort of mixed emotions that I have to announce that Dr. Ting Lu has accepted a very exciting opportunity to serve as the Deputy Director for the City of Portland's Bureau of Environmental Services.
Wow.
Yeah, so she joined us in 2016, and she served in really great roles in regulatory affairs, digital solutions, and most recently our research and innovation. She has incredible analytical insight and an ability to bring technical acumen to business problems and excellent project management skills, and just this great positivity that she brings to her work, and she'll be deeply missed. But as the BES Deputy Director, she'd be number 2 in that organization. She'll work with the director and their senior leadership to advance their strategic priorities. And she's looking to continuing our peer-to-peer learning that we have between BES and Clean Water Services, and her last day is on July 28th. But I've talked to Ting a lot, and she's very grateful and thankful for her service at Clean Water Services, and she's going to miss being able to work with all of you, but it's an amazing opportunity. It's hard to pass up, and I feel that we took her from a young engineer from Cincinnati and Black and Veatch, and she grew and to the point where she can become a deputy director. It's It's pretty amazing.
Well, I am
Congratulations.
thrilled she's still here in
Mhm.
our region.
Mhm.
You know, that's what career development is all about. So staying in public service is another wonderful thing. I will miss her expertise, her guidance. Yeah,
She wants to learn what she's going to learn there, and our door is always open to come right on back to
That's right.
higher opportunities. So, but Tang wanted me to tell you how she will miss all of you. So thank you.
she's a dear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I will be traveling on July 27th and 28th to the University of Nevada at Reno to do a keynote speech to talk about leadership and one water challenges that we'll be facing in the future. We'll be able to see and partner with the Nevada Water Innovation Institute. So we're real interested in learning about them and potential things we could do with Ripple and with that institute.
Is that a public-private institute or
No,
academic?
it's
or-
academic. It's within Nevada, and they're trying to deal with the issues of water, their water constraints and leadership. Mhm.
Cool.
Governance is a huge issue between those multi-states as it relates to water.
All righty. Thank you, Diane. Formal agenda item discussion. If I could kick it off and ask Tom and Courtney with regard to our camping restriction ordinance, ordinance number 896. We had a constituent email that came in that caused me to have a question. So I reached out to Courtney and asked if legal could come and enlighten all of us on this topic. And if you don't recall the email, it has to do with the question of our proposed camping ordinance in the that applies in the urban unincorporated areas. And the current, you'll make sure I got it right, the current Washington County RV parking restriction that also applies in the UUAs. So hopefully I described the context sufficiently. So if you could enlighten us about that relationship.
My pleasure, Chair. Good morning, County Commissioners. So the rule that is cited in the written testimony that's in your packet actually comes from the Enhanced Sheriff's Patrol District Ordinance number 2, which is about enhanced towing and parking regulations. As your board knows, ESPD is a special district, a County 451 that was formed and for which the property owners pay for an enhanced patrol and services. So that rule is about prohibited parking. Ordinance 896 that you will consider in a public hearing today is in response in part to House Bill 3115 that requires that if we're going to regulate camping on public property, we have to have reasonable time, place, manner restrictions. So they really are regulating two different things and don't necessarily impact each other. And in fact, in Ordinance 896, we have exempted regulating the use of cars for shelter or sleeping because we have other regulations that deal with that. In the case of unincorporated Washington County, that's found in Washington County Chapter 8.16. And for the Enhanced Patrol District, there's this additional enhanced rule from Ordinance number 2. So they are doing separate things, sort of related, but different regulations.
So I follow that, but I am empathetic to our layperson constituents. So I'm wondering, how do we go about helping them better understand? From their standpoint, it's someone who's trying to seek shelter. It seems to me to be equating parking on the street as part of that common good, that public domain. So how do we explain the relationship between these things and the time frame differences?
Right.
That's what I'm grappling with.
Yeah. I don't know if you want Mr. Carr to respond or.
Oh, I'm
Okay.
just looking
at us
for
both?
help.
Well, I think it's a couple things. I think, both Washington County, the 8.16 and Ordinance 2 obviously predate all this work in the federal cases that are sort of changing how we approach camping on public property. And so, they don't necessarily take those, that new legal framework into consideration when they were adopted. I think there's a second question to ask. They are kind of operate like time regulations. And so the question then becomes, are they reasonable? And I think that's a policy decision that in part your board, either as the Washington County Commissioners or sitting as the Board of Directors for ESPD, could consider as we move forward, if there's an interest in kind of providing more uniformity across all three, or if we think these regulations in regards to parking and sheltering in cars are still reasonable. And I'm not an expert in those areas. I certainly can, there may be good reasons for having shorter timeframes for sheltering in cars than encampments. Those considerations can certainly be brought forward as we move forward.
So Courtney and I also looked at the ordinance that adopted Ordinance 2. It was in, I think, January 2017. And the community in the ESPD had come forward and was concerned about RV parking. And the ESPD, as you know, is unique. It's a semi-urban area in unincorporated Washington County that needed extra police services and pays for them. So what the ordinance says is that, but based on this community concern and the unique characteristics of the ESPD, this rule was adopted to only apply in the ESPD.
Right.
So I think there's a rationale for why there's a difference, and it goes to the unique nature of the ESPD and not the rest of the county.
Yeah.
And as you know, Chair, the ESPD, because it's urban, but also somewhat rural, it does have unique challenges when faced with RV parking. So I think it could be justified. But as Ms. Dreesen says, it predates both Martin and the state legislature's action on homeless camping. So we may need to analyze it in that context now, but it is a different and unique situation. So if you're asking my advice to what to say to the constituent, it really relates to the unique characteristics of the Enhanced Sheriff Patrol District and why that was adopted in 2017.
Okay. I get it. If I might paraphrase, but I'm a little uncomfortable doing that because we're touching on legalese. But how I might try to explain it is we do have these two different ordinances being put in place in different timeframes. And as you say, the ESPD parking ordinance too has particular circumstances that it was addressing. So from the standpoint of a constituent reporting that a vehicle, an RV, for example, is parked in an ESPD area for more than a couple of days, they would call and report it. And the time frame would be that couple of days standpoint for the deputies to try and follow up. Whereas with other areas, the camping ordinance, time, place, and manner, we'd be looking at primarily with this 5-day grace period and then going from there. Okay.
It's also worth noting that Washington, 8.16 is for parking in unincorporated Washington County, also has a 5-day period. So there is some consistency.
8.16 is parking in
Unincorporated Washington County.
okay, unincorporated. And the particulars there are 5 days?
Correct.
Okay, it's only in the ESPD areas. Got it. With ordinance 2. Got it, with the 2 days. Yeah, but unincorporated also includes
Yeah.
rural.
Yeah, no, I mean, most
Rural
urban
streets.
area, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm following it.
Yeah.
Colleagues?
Yeah, just two different areas.
Okay. If this person does come and testify in person, I think having you provide some clarity on camera for the whole community would be useful too.
I had one quick item. If you would tell Brad, thank you. I think it's item 5, that Nordic Center. We've been working 2 years. It's not evident by reading what's there. It's just a little patch of ground that they want to throw gravel on and park. I'm glad we found some craftable. It had no use to the county, so it was nice that we were able to work out. Time, thanks.
Terrific. Any other questions on the formal? All right. Well, then we'll pause here and our track team will get us set up and then we'll get going in our business meeting in about 10 minutes.
Could I ask, Kevin, do we have any information about testimony today?
So far, Commissioner Treese, we had 2 people sign up at the beginning of the meeting and 1 person has signed up for the public hearing. So far, they signed up to provide comments online via Zoom. I've not been aware of anyone that may come for the public in person today.
Thank you.